Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today we are gonna doing podcast of the title World War III, Russia and Ukraine. First, let me spill my name. My name is Rashid, the narrator. And the second, in front of me,
My name is Farhan, and my name is Ubay, and then
My name is Ilham Fadi.
okay, we are gonna doing a conversation still now. From the first title, Ukraine-Russia tension, British troops unlikely to fight. From Trash, from BBC News. What do you mean? What do you mean about this, Farhan?
maybe there is a threat of Russia invading Ukraine. French secretary Taras Haswan, but it's very unlikely. Thus, British soldiers will be employed to fight in any conflict. Instead, she said that UK was sending weapons to Ukraine and strengthening its sanction system to oligarchs close to the Kremlin had nowhere to hide. Anyway,
She had the Ukraine was also offering extra support to Serbia nonetheless. Any invasion would be terrible for Europe, ministers told the BBC. Russia has placed about 1,000 troops, tanks, artillery, and missiles near Ukrainian borders. But the Ministry planned to invade the former Soviet Republic, which bordered with Russia and Europe. And then, what about the man?
Economics.
but
But ministers said it was highly likely that President Vladimir Putin was looking to invade. We are doing all we can through literacy and diplomacy to ours into this is. She told BBC one Sunday morning earlier. Economic sensation, punishment put on the state, individual or organization by other countries. Quote, target Russian financial institutions, energy companies, and those who are key to the condition of the Russian regime. Maybe next article.
For me, under new legislation, section called potentially target any interest that has an impact on the Russian government, she said. The Foreign Office is announced together session in Parliament on Monday. Early this week, Prime President Volodymyr Zelensky called on the West not to break panic, saying warning of an immediate invasion were putting Ukraine economy at risk. Mrs. Truss from BBC, who will visit Ukraine and Moscow in the next 2 weeks, said the UK had already trained 200,000 troops in Ukraine, supplied anti-tank missiles, and given support to its navy and energy sector. The UK is also considering offering to double the number of its troops deploying in Eastern Europe, with Prime Minister Boris Johnson saying it will send a clear message to the Kremlin. From Farhan?
maybe for me that the UK has more than 900 military personnel based in Estonia, more than 100 in Ukraine as part of a training mission, while a land cavalry squadron numbering about 150 is deployed to Poland. Also, speaking to Sunday morning, Sophie Ashworth, our NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, said that would be a high price to pay if Russia decides to use force. Then, the more aggressive they are, the more NATO presence they will get at the borders. However, he reiterated that Ukraine was not a member of the military alliance, and such there were no plans to deploy NATO combat forces. And then what about you?
Then Russia also promised Ukraine will never join NATO, in which members promised to come to another aid in the event of an armed attack. NATO's key members include the US, UK, and several former Soviet republics, some of which border Russia. Moscow sees NATO troops in Eastern Europe as a direct threat to its security. Mr. Putin has long urged the US to warrant it made in 1990 that NATO would not expand further its so integration before actually what was promised. And then Serena.
Last month, Russia issued a written list of its conquests about NATO expansion and rated that Ukraine should never join the alliance. That the US has since rejected that demand. But Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said it was already Moscow. A serious diplomatic path forward, so Russia chose it. If Russia were to invade Ukraine, it would not be the first time Russia annexed Ukraine southern Crimea Peninsula in 2014. It is also backing rebels who seized large swaths of the eastern Donbass region soon. Afterwards, at some 40,000 people have died in fighting it. And maybe next in
Okay, maybe that's from the first title on Ukraine-Russia tension. British troops unlikely to fight. We're gonna go into the second title. It is Russia preparing to invade Ukraine and other questions. Are Russian forces getting ready for war in Ukraine? U.S. President Joe Biden is certainly expecting some kind of military move. Russia want the West to promise that Ukraine will not join its NATO defensive alliance. And although the two sides are negotiating that is not going to happen. What happened next could jeopardize Europe's entire security structure. Why is Russia threatening Ukraine? Russia denies it's planning an invasion, but it has seized Ukrainian territory before and it has an estimate 100,000 troops deployed near its border. Russia has long resisted Ukraine's move toward Europe instead and NATO in particular. Maybe next from Mr. Farhan.
Maybe about me that Ukraine shares border with both Europe and Russia, but as a former Soviet republic, it has deep social and cultural ties with Russia, and Russian is widely spoken there. When Ukrainians deposed their pro-Russian president in early 2040, Russia annexed Ukraine's southern Crimean Peninsula, backed Separatists who captured large swathes of eastern Ukraine. The rebel has fought the Ukrainian military conflict that has claimed more than 4,000 lives. And then, how or what is the big risk of this invasion? Russia says it has no plans to attack Ukraine, and Armed Force Chief Valery Gerasimov even denounced report of uninvited infants as a lie. But tensions are high, and the President Vladimir Putin has stated retaliatory military technical measures. If what he calls the West's aggressive opponent continues, NATO's Secretary General warns the risk of the conflict is real, and President Biden says his guess is that Russia will move in. The U.S. said it knows of recent plans to boost its force near Ukraine on every short notice. And then how about you, Mister?
And then the US says Russia has offered no explanation of the troops close to Ukraine, and Russian troops and tanks have headed to Belarus for exercise. Russia Deputy Foreign Minister compared the current situation to the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis, when the US and Soviet Union came close to nuclear conflict. Western intelligence suggests Russian insertion or invasion could happen sometime in early 2022. And then, what does Russia want from NATO, Mr. Herman?
Russia has spoke of a moment of truth in recasting its relationship with NATO. For us, it's about its absolutely minority to ensure an Ukraine NATO ever become a member of NATO, said Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov. Moscow accused NATO countries of bombing Ukraine with weapons, and the U.S. of stocking tension. President Putin has complete Russia has no authority to drink today. Do they think we will just either one? And it demands no more eastward expansion and an end to NATO military activity in Eastern Europe. That would mean combat units being pulled off Poland and the Baltic republics of Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, and no missile deployed in countries such as Poland and Romania. Maybe next in this project.
NATO expansion since 1911 and 97. Russia has also proposed a treaty with the US barring nuclear weapons from being deployed beyond their national territories. What does Russia want with Ukraine? Russia seized Crimea in 2014, arguing it had a historic claim to it. Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union, which collapsed in December 1991. And Mr. Putin said it was the disintegration of historical Russia. A clue to President Putin thinking on Ukraine came in a late piece last year, when he called Russia and Ukraine one nation. He labeled Ukraine Kalman River as running an anti-project Russia. Russia has also become frustrated that 2015 means peace deal for eastern Ukraine is far from being fulfilled. There are still no arrangements for independently monitoring election in the separatist region. Russia denies accusation that is part of lingering conflict. Can Russia action be stopped, Mr. Farhan? Can Russia action to be stopped?
Okay. Maybe, but President Vladimir Putin has spoken several times to Mr. Biden, and high-level talks continue. But Russian official has warned that Western rejection of their key demands are leading to a dead end. The question is, how far Russia will go? We don't know. President Biden has warned that a full-scale invasion would be a disaster for Russia. But if it was a minor incursion, he said controversially that the West would end up having to fight about what to do. And then there is some stuff or some information about Ukraine and Russian military strength. The White House has stressed any move to cross the border constitute a renewed invasion, but points out Russia has other weapons, including cyber attack and paramilitary tactics that the Pentagon has accused Russia of preparing a so-called fast flag operation, and with that operation ready to carry out acts of sabotage against Russian rebels to provide a pretext for invasion. Russia has denied it. And then, so what about you, Mister? Russia has denied it.
Russia hasn't made it. And then
Russia has also
Russia has also handed out 500,000 passports in rebel-run areas. So if it does not get it wants, then it could justify any action as protecting its own citizens. However, if Russia's only is to force NATO away from its backyard, there is a sign of its succeeding. And then NATO's 30 members have turned down threats and attempt to tie their hands for the future. We will not allow anyone to question NATO's open door policy, said U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Wendy Sherman. Ukraine is looking for a clear timeline to join, and NATO says Russia has no veto, no right to interfere in the process. And non-NATO members, Sweden and Finland, have also rejected Russia's attempt to stop the leveling of their ties with the alliance. We will not let go of our foreign maneuver, said Finland Prime Minister. And then how far will the West go for Ukraine, Mr. Ilman?
Maybe before we discuss how far will the West go for Ukraine, we will discuss for Ukraine and Russian military strength. Maybe you can up again your page, up. Okay, Mr. Ruben, up again your page. That's military Ukraine and Russian military strength. Ukraine military has that.
For me, Ukraine has 1,100,000 people. Then Russia have 2,900,000 people. It's different, very far
Yes.
from Russia and Ukraine, right?
Yes.
Right,
Of course.
right?
So maybe
Yeah.
winner of level 3 is
What of three? I think the winner is Russia because 2 million people between 1 million people.
But what if this war maybe Russia will lose because in Perang Badar we win about 3,030 fight for 100 people.
I think Perang Badar that's Muslim war, not like
Yeah.
now. Like now is Ukraine from Russia. I think it's a kafir country, right?
Yes, maybe right there.
Badar ya.
Badar is Muslim war.
Like
Because they have a God.
ya,
Yes.
Nabi ya.
Yes.
Yeah, by prophet, right?
Yes, prophet ya.
I-
Allah, if this war not winner, not have nyembah lagi kepada Allah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think from the aircraft and helicopter and tank, Russia have more enough from Ukraine. From Russia have 1,511 aircraft for F-22 and 544 for helicopter. And the tank is enough for. The Russia have 12,000 and the Ukraine have 2,000. And how about armored vessel and towed artillery, Mr. Ubay? Different between. What the difference between from two country?
Oh, can you repeat your
opinion.
What the between armored vehicle and towed artillery from these two country, Russia and Ukraine?
Maybe Taliban, you can help me answer the question.
Okay, maybe. Mr. Newman, can you answer my question?
yes? Can you repeat the question? Between
What between different Russia armored vehicle and artillery between Russia and Ukraine? Maybe we're gonna going to next title. It's
Maybe I can answer.
okay. Mr. Baran can answer it.
What is your question?
I'm already
different type of mission is yes, you can bring the troops, many troops, and our artillery. You can brought
the number between.
Yeah, the number between Ukraine and Russia, it's different number, bro. Russia is
12,000 and 30,000. It's
they have many troops.
many troops. Russian, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, maybe.
But Ukraine have a friend like America, US. Yes.
But Russia have Ura.
Okay.
Right.
Get it out.
Next thing.
We're gonna next to the next title.
Ah.
Ukraine, it's more about Ukraine conflict. Can peace?
But maybe we have a question about when we this page in Russian preparing after Ubay and me.
I think.
No. Like how far will West go to Ukraine? Yes, that's question. Maybe like.
I think so far will the West go for Ukrainians? The Pentagon has put 8,500 people, right?
The US has that clear.
Yes, right there.
Yes,
Of
okay.
course. Yes, of
maybe
course.
Not discuss.
We podcast from the narrator and the third spectator.
Yes, this I have question again.
Yes.
Stage.
Okay.
Discuss this question.
I
How
think
far will the West
we're
go?
going to the next title, right?
Okay.
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 maybe at the last.
Because
Uh,
okay.
I think we're gonna. It's board for Ukraine and me. We're gonna going to the next country. It's North Korea. Okay, maybe from the viewers already know from the North Korea. North Korea missile test biggest launch since 2017, right?
Right. Yes. Yes.
North Korea has conduct what is
North Korea?
North Korea?
No. Ukraine conflict?
No, maybe it's the after this because
Oh.
we so bored for the discuss the Ukraine.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna next. North Korea missile test biggest launch since 2017, right?
No, I know.
North Korea has conducted what is thought to be its biggest missile launch since 2017. The weapon has apparently an intermediate range missile which reached an altitude of 2,000 km before coming down in the Sea of Japan. Japan, South Korea, and the US have all condemned the launch the 7th test this month. The UN prohibit North Korea from ballistic and nuclear weapon tests and has imposed strict sanctions. But the East Asia state regularly defy the ban, and leader Kim Jong-un has fought to bolster his country defense. Experts suggest multiple reasons lie behind the speed of launch, including political signaling of threats to global and regional power, a desire by Kim Jong-un to pressure that US back into long-stall nuclear talk, and also the practical need to test our new engineering and military command system. The timing is also seen as significant, coming just before the Winter Olympics in China and ahead of the South Korean president election in March. And the tests have also served as the failed in North Korea economy struggle under US LED sanctions, pandemic related difficult and state of management. Mr. Farhan,
Yes.
how about destination and
About the selling edge, South Korea has reported the launch took place at 7:52 local time on Sunday off North Korea's east coast. Japanese and South Korean officially estimate that the missile reached an altitude of 200 km and flew for 30 minutes to a distance of 800 kilometers. The United States called on the North Korean to refrain from future destabilizing act. January was already one of the best months on record of North Korean missile program, with several short-range missiles fired into the sea, and then South Korean President Moon Jae-in said that last flurry of tests was reminiscent of the heightened tensions in 2017, when North Korea conducted several nuclear tests and launched the large missile, including some that flew over Japan. According to South Korean news agency Yonhap, the missile appears to to be similar to Hwasong 12 missile that the North gave in 2017. And then how about you, Mr. Obama, about North Korean missile and nuclear program?
In 2018, Mr. Kim announced a moratorium on testing nuclear weapons of its long-range intercontinental ballistic missiles, or ICBMs. But the North Korean leadership in 2019 it was no more by more the U.S. imposed more sanctions on North Korea earlier in January in response to previous missile launch. Negotiations between the two countries have started. Dr. Daniel is an lecturer in international relations. Thought the BBC were aware for main reasons North Korea has missiles for engineering purposes to test and system. For military exercise, for political signaling to different audience, and as advertisement for foreign buyers. Then North Korea may be signaling to big powers such as China, the US, and then the UN Security Council, but also regional force and also the Korean Peninsula. He said there's a South Korean presidential election coming up in just over a month. So this is consistent with the past behavior to try and intimidate South Korea and the incoming president, said Dr. Kingston from Troy University and who lives in South Korea. And then there's the domestic audience inside North Korea, which I think a lot of people understand. For the audience inside North Korea, this is a way of signaling strength and resolve and the power of leadership. According to other analysts, the missiles tested this month, South North Korea was developing technology that can defeat the costly and complex missile defense systems that America and Japan have been deploying across this region. And then, what about Mr. Herman?
Former South Korean Naval Commander Professor Kim Dong-gyu said they want to have Detroit system that is like Scorpion things. North Korea's main purpose is not to attack but to defend themselves, said Professor Kim, adding that the country is trying to secure defense defense capability. Meanwhile, UK research yellow at centers for foreign policy and national security told Reuters that Kim seems to be ramping up attacks in bid to pressure. But Washington and Beijing offer safetier sections just ahead of Olympics. China, North Korea's main economic ally, it's likely to be interrupted by the launch coming, not only before the Olympics but also before Lunar New Year celebrations, according to BBC. Asia analyst Celia Hatton. Maybe Mr. Archie, what missile does North Korea have? Estimate operates in kilometers.
I think from the little missile is Nodong. The name is Nodong.
Yeah.
For the test and operational, it's according 150 50
1,000.
1,500 kilometer.
Yes, it's so, yeah.
It's so far, right?
Yes.
Like from Bogor,
No,
Surabaya.
it's so far. Like
No,
Jakarta,
no.
Bali, Jakarta,
No,
Bali.
Bogor, Surabaya
Jakarta,
just
Bali.
300.
Jakarta, Bali.
Bogor, Surabaya just 300.
Jakarta.
The truck from
Maybe
Sabang
Jakarta,
from Merauke.
Jakarta, Masakar. No, Merauke is 3 mil. Just
Okay.
Ada dua Bali.
The second,
just 3 mil.
the-
Jangan sampai makanya.
the second missile is the name is Pukgung Song Strip 3. It's 0.1900 kilometer, and the third is Pukgung Song point 2. It's 2,000 kilometer. And the standard missile, the name is Musudan. It's 4,000 kilometer. And next, Hwasong point 12. It's 4,500 kilometer. And the biggest one, the name is Hwasong 15. Hwasong 15 can reach 3,000 kilometer. Wow, amazing, right?
Amazing.
Of course.
Yes.
How about the Mr. Farhan? It's amazing, right?
Yes, of course.
Of
Yes.
course. Maybe we gonna back from the first title. If Ukraine conflict can peace when it is finally bring peace.
Okay.
After 5.5 years of conflict in eastern Ukraine, a Paris summit has resulted in some progress toward a peace settlement. Ukraine forces and Russia-backed separatists have pulled back from three frontline towns. There is no momentum toward the escalated after landmark talk between Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky and Russia President Vladimir Putin. But there is still a long way to go. More than 300 people have died in the conflict between Ukrainian military and Russia-backed rebels. Mr. Putin and Mrs. Zelensky agreed that by the end of this year an exciting diverse frequently violated will be fully implemented and all remaining prisoners will be exchanged. The Paris summit on 9 December, mediated by France and Germany, was the first between Mr. Zelensky and Mrs. Putin, but there is body language remained chilly and there was no final handshake. Before the summit could take place, Mr. Zelensky had accepted a 2016 deal, offering special status to the separatists have part of Ukraine's Donbas region and a troop disengagement at 3 places on the front line. How about you, Mr. Farhan? The pullback was a shift?
About me,
The pullback was a shift in Stanza Luhansa, Jolonsa and Petrus.
the Steinmeier formula aims to break the impassive overpraise, the great man's rage of the head, and its self-rage. And fair?
Maybe fair.
Mr. Pai, you gonna about highlight?
Yes.
Yes.
Permission.
Contoh.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay, maybe we have to
Maybe
say
we
sorry.
have a break time.
We have to say sorry about the pause.
Yes.
We can pause.
Gajah friend.
We're gonna
Okay.
pause and we're gonna
Maybe we
continue
are gonna
after this.
next about 5 minutes later.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, we are back to continue the podcast.
Okay, maybe for me, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
For me.
Oh, okay.
For me, the last topic is the story in 300 words, 3,000 words. Before the summit could take place, Mr. Zelensky had to accept 2066, offering special status to the south part of Ukraine, Donbas region, and a troop detachment at 3 places on the front line. The pullback was achieved in Stansia, Luhanska, Zolote, and Petrivske. The stand Myanmar formula aims to break the impasse of peace agreements reached at the height of the fighting. Deals free of fair election is under eventual verification by the.
Jelas semuanya kan tahu jadinya.
Okay,
We're gonna next the We're gonna next the podcast from Mr. Farhan.
yes, for me is about the Steinmeier formula. The Steinmeier formula aims to break the impasse over peace agreements reached at the height of fighting. It deals free and fair elections in the East under international law. Verification by the OSCE, International Security Organization, and the self-governing status direction. In Paris, both sides pledged to work towards holding those local elections, but there is no agreement yet on the election timing and the technicals. They plan to hold another summit in 4 months' time, and then they also plan to pull troops back from 3 more frontline areas by March to 220. Mr. Zelensky is under strong pressures in Kiev to avoid any collaboration to Russia, seen as an aggressor for its involvement in the East. Crimea, the Ukrainian peninsula annexed by Russia in March 240, is not unraveled in this task. Russian-backed insurgency against Kiev spread Donbas in April 240. And then, how about you, Mr. April 240? Okay.
Against taking point is the issue of Ukraine in control of the 4,000 kilometer border between the eastern regions of Donetsk and Luhansk and Russia. Mr. Putin insisted that the border question called be addressed after election in the separate areas. In Paris, he said the peace process is developing in the right direction, and Mr. Zelensky was like, wise coaches, let's say for now it's a draw. He said, according to Western intelligence, Russia has regular troops and heavy weapons to help the Donbas separatists. Moscow denies that, but that means that Russian volunteers are fighting there. The conflict has displaced more than 1 million people, and that complicates plans to hold election in rival held areas. And then you can continue the news with your man.
Sorry, I have a break in your discussion.
Oh, I can tell you. It is from this French President Emmanuel Macron said.
Wait.
From the story in 16 war. They
Yes.
don't like. They
Oh,
don't
French
like-
president.
Yes, from that. Of course. Like that, yeah. Nice to meet you too.
French President Emmanuel Macron said the Russian Ukrainian leaders would hold summit talk again for months' time. By the time, according to their Paris joint statement, Ukraine, the separatist force will have pulled back from 3 more frontline areas. Another 77 Ukrainian prisoners are set to be released by the end of 2019. 2019. It ends for the 88 prisoners held by the rebels. Although Mr. Zelensky achieved success at home with a long-awaited prisoner swap with Russia. In September, has initial Borrelli has decided. He described that swap as a victory that emerged from personal contact with Mr. Putin. He was elected in April with a landslide against President Petro Poroshenko. Millions of Ukrainians wanted to get rid of what they saw as corrupt politicians, but they also bet their faith on Mr. Zelensky to re-energize the deadlocked peace talks. On visit to Zoloty, Mr. Zelensky told war veterans Ukrainians wanted out withdrawal and something had to be done and the war. But it pushed securing a summit. Some of the morality dirt way Russia and Ukraine have long argued over that. For the transit of Russian gas, fear Ukraine, but now there is new willingness to reach a deal on that. Before the summit, work began to restore the destroyer bridge at Stanisia, Luhansk, a key crossing used every day by thousands of people on both sides. Significantly, on 1 October, Ukraine, Russian, and separatists agreed on special status of separatists have parts of Donetsk and Luhansk regions. The separatists have declared independence, but their so-called republics are regions. The signing on in October was Moscow key precondition for the Paris summit of the leader of Ukraine's Russian friend German now as the Normandy format. Next, Mr. Isaac.
Moscow and Kiev have interpreted the so-called Stenya formula differently, but Russian media have described a plan with brings. Point number 1. Temporary self-governing status for rural health area at 20 o'clock local time on the day elections are held. Permanent special status after the OSCE International Security Organization verifies the electronic were free and fair and complied with the Ukrainian law. Russia is also keen to secure an amnesty for the rebels. Mr. Putin says both sides must stick to the firm end of the 2015 Minsk ceasefire deal. However, that framework for peace was soon violated and Ukraine wants to recover full control over its border before Donbas election. Not after as stated in the Minsk deal. There is no alternative to Minsk agreement and everything needs to be done to put them into action, Mr. Putin said in Paris. Ukrainian nationalists suspect Mr. Zelensky of negotiating a surrender to Russia and are unconfidently by his assurance. Mr. Zelensky has set out a series of objectives and red lines. Point number 1, the release of all Ukrainian prisoners, a full and genuine ceasefire and withdrawal of all armed groups, and even before any electric can be held in the east. Participation by candidates from Ukrainian political parties in election and not just pro-Russian party. Point number 4, the right of all those who have fled the conflict to return to wave. Point number 5, the restoration of Ukraine control over the stretch of border with Russia. Despite his guaranteed protect have been held across Ukraine, with Mr. Zelensky opponent arguing implementation of the deal called result in Russia occupation of the Donbas being legitimate. The BBC Jonah Fisher in Kiev said it is hard to see how to propose election will be fairly contested, even if held under Ukrainian law. Most people with strongly pro-Ukraine feel left the rebel-held area long ago. Maybe that's enough from the topic Ukraine and Russia. The next topic is about North Korea. About North Korea, right?
Yeah, maybe I will bring the detail.
Yes.
North Korea what we know about its missile and nuclear program. North Korea has conducted more missile tests to advance its weapons program, which it says is necessary to defend itself against a possible U.S. invasion. Early in January, tests has been carried out about hypersonic as well as short range, intermediate range, and long range ballistic missile. Last September, a hypersonic missile, a threat-based ballistic missile, and a long-range cruise missile were all tests according to North Korean state media. In January 2021, before President Biden took office, North Korea unveiled a new submarine ballistic missile at a military parade, calling it the world's most powerful weapon. This weapon actual capabilities remain unclear as it's not known to have been tested. That current leader Kim Jong-un has pledged to expand his nuclear arsenal and military potential to the country has managed to make advance despite being subject to economic sanctions. And then how about you, Mr. Ubay, about the missile that can reach the US?
In 2017, North Korea has several measures demonstrating what seems to be related to its military technology. The Hwasong was thought to be able to reach as far as 4,500 kilometers, cutting across militaries on the Pacific Island when within string stands. The Hwasong in 14 demonstrated even greater potential with a range of 8,000 kilometers, although some studies suggest it could travel as far as 10,000 kilometers if heard on a maximum trajectory.
Sorry, Mr. Ubay. We think that it's the North Korean missile can reach the US.
Yeah.
Okay, next.
This work has given Pyongyang its first early intercontinental ballistic capable of reaching New York. times higher than the international space station. If run on a more conventional weather trajectory, the mission could have a maximum range of some 30,000 kilometers, I think, of the continental US range. And the continent continent.
What was
Uh, in October.
Maybe Mr. Nguyen?
in October 2020, North Korea unveiled its new ballistic missile. It has not yet been named or tested like the House of 15. It's a two-stage liquid fuel missile, but with a greater weight or diameter, it could possibly carry multiple warheads. It's believed to be able to deliver a nuclear warhead to anywhere in the US. And it's a surprise that even social analysis when it was put on show in 2020. In January 2021, North Korea unveiled another missile, a new type for submarines launched ballistic missile, which it declared to be the world's most powerful weapon. The unveiling of the new missile appeared to be a message to the Biden administration of the North growing military progress, say experts in March 2020. It's carried out a launch of what it called new particle guided projectile, which it said was able to carry payload of 2.5 tons. So, capable of the theory of carrying a nuclear warhead. The weapon has not been formally identified. Analysts at the James Martin Center of Non-Proliferation to the top Reuters in the effort to be an improved variant of previously tested missile, the KN-2030. That's yes. About me and maybe next time.
Okay. Okay, maybe for me is some experts have suggested that the missile could have filtering enabling to maneuver more easily and making it harder to detect. The test last September of long-range cruiser missile could pose yet more challenges for defense system, as this missile will have to follow a straight trajectory and can be programmed to avoid detection. State media said it could travel up to 1,057 kilometers or 930 miles, putting much of Japan within range, although it's not clear as yet how it's going and whether it could carry a nuclear payload. Unlike ballistic missiles, current UN Security Council cited the not prohibited North Korea from testing cruiser missile. The hypersonic missile test last September can travel at much faster speed and avoid radar detection for longer than ballistic missile. It's believed that North Korea may also be able to transport and store it fully fueled, allowing for quicker launch time. Thermonuclear bomb. It was on 3 September 2017 that North Korea conducted by far its largest nuclear test to date at its Punggye-ri test site. Estimate of the device's explosive power of yield range from 100 until 30-70 kiloton. A yield of 100 kiloton will make the test 6 times more powerful than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima in 1945. North Korea claimed this test was its first thermonuclear weapon, the most potent from nuclear explosion, where an atomic detonation is boosted by a secondary fusion process to produce a 4-digit blast. In April 2018, North Korea announced it would suspend further nuclear tests because its capability had been verified. North Korea also promised to dismantle Punggye site and in May 2018 blow up some of the tunnel secretion from Janel with international expert. As dialogue was underway between Kim Jong-un and President Trump administration that year, Pyongyang also said that it will destroy all its nuclear material enrichment facilities. Maybe next for Mr. Farhan.
For me, however, the talks with U.S. were inconclusive. The UN Atomic Agency reported in 220 that on the basis of satellite imagery, it's afraid North Korea has restarted the Yongbyon reactor. Talk between its main source of weapon grade plutonium, the International Atomic Energy Agency (IAEA) said that the nuclear program was going full steam ahead with work on plutonium preparation, uranium enrichment, and other activities. And we continue to talk about millions of soldiers. North Korea has one of the largest standing armies in the world, with more than 1 million army personnel, estimate reserve of some 600. Much of this equipment is old and obsolete, but its conventional force could still inflict massive damage on South Korea in the even war. North Korea also around tens of thousands of special force groups which could be expected to inflict the shock in the event and any conflict. A further threat comes from thousands of North Korean militaries and rocket launch deployed along the border, putting South Korea, including the capital Seoul, with its distance of less than 60 kilometers well within range. In 2020, a South Korean government assessment estimates that North Korea could have between 2,000 and 50,000 tons of chemical weapons, potentially one of the largest stockpiles in the world. And there's also big concerns that North Korea could have a biological weapon program. Although very little is known about it and how far advanced it might be. Okay, maybe that's our topic today.
No. The military balance.
Huh?
The military balance?
Big material up.
The military balance.
The military
The military balance about North Korea and South Korea.
Yeah.
In the last battle is China and Russia, right?
Yeah.
Now it's North Korea and South Korea. From total active force, North Korea have 1,280,000 people, and South Korea is
South Korea is under
600.
just 600, right? It's very different. It's very different between, right? From the tank, aircraft, submarine, and artillery. Can you reading Mr. Ubay about between tank, aircraft, submarine, and artillery?
In the time in North Korea is three
very much for that reason.
The new topic.
And the new topic is Ukraine. How big is Russia military build up?
The topic is going to
Ukraine again
yeah.
and Russia. How big is Russia military build up?
Mr. Raymond, can you
Mr. Roman, can you read this?
Yes.
Can you read?
Okay.
Special Hasselblad Carnival Brigance, 19 January. Troops on the move. About 35,000 Russian personnel are currently standing near Ukrainian territory. And on Wednesday, the Russian Defense Ministry released picture of Metro units are on their way to a training site in Rostov, close to Ukraine border. Most estimates put the number recent of troops deployed around Ukraine to the country north, south, and east at about 100,000. But one, a current assessment reported by CNN, say there are 106,000 ground troops and 2,000 to 20,000 to 21,000 Navy and Air Force personnel. On Tuesday, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson said the intelligence is very clear that there are 60 Russian battle groups on the borders of Ukraine, about a third of the total available number. In addition to the regular Russian troops, there are troops to be about 15,000 Russian separatists in Ukraine, Luhansk, and Donetsk region. But some Western analysts say it's not clear that Russia has assembled everything there. For the ground invasion, they point to absence of fully manned mobile field hospitals in some areas. The arrival of medic staff say clothes indicates raise lives to attack. And next, about the opinion of the view from above, the next administration.
For me,
The satellite image.
the view from above is satellite image provide additional clue. The presence of troops can sometimes be detected by the color of things. Those occupied or hidden now in the snow on their roof and appearing up from above. Hosting from Russian troops in Yelna, Smolensk, 19 January. The curtain where snow have melted indicate troop present. Image from outside, armored vehicle can be identified by their shapes. Entire trade or mood indicate vehicle on the move. Tank artillery and support equipment in Yelna, Smolensk, 19 January. Vehicle on the roof indicate active site. Darker color vehicle and tire track indicate recent activity. Build up Belarus. A Russian fort of several thousand has been moved to Belarus for a joint military exercise that will reach its peak between 1 and 20 February. The country leader Alexander Lukashenko supports Russian President Vladimir Putin. The Ukraine capital Kyiv is less than 100 miles from the Belarus border, and Western observers say the exercise like resolve and could provide an opportunity to rehearse a mission against Ukraine. Image spots online claim to show military equipment, including armored vehicle, tank and rocket system, traveling toward the area. Image of likely Russian military camp in Belarus, geolocated by Dan Fan 71, near Chista, 200 km north of Kyiv, show BM/27 Uragan will be launching rocket system Krasnodar-Mikhail. Few original tweet on Twitter. And Russia has announced the deployment of Achman Su-35 fighter plane to Belarus, along with air defense system, munition, and medical support. The build up at sea, Russia is holding worldwide naval drill from the Atlantic to the Pacific, starting this month and running through February, involving about 140 ship and support vessels, 60 aircraft, 10,000 personnel, 6 Russian Navy vessels capable of landing many little tank, personnel and armored vehicles have passed out in the English Channel on their way to exercise in the Mediterranean Sea. But it is unclear whether the Black Sea and the Ukrainian coast may be there in the destination. Some analysts say an ambiguous landing by Russian troops will be extremely difficult and the naval force may be failed to draw Ukraine, ground force away from more likely routes on attack on the land. Maybe we'll have a new title again from Mr. Sultan.
Yeah, the last topic we have already bring to this podcast is about Ukraine and then Russian and then North Korea. And this topic we are gonna bring a travel topic about airline long list wilderness, what Namibia National Park. Okay, in this
We're gonna going from World War topic to the travel topic.
this means that airlines base wilderness is undergoing a welding program to allow its bog and forest to return to their natural state, even if much of this land has always been one. So, standing on top of Coranmore Hill in the middle of Namibia National Park in County Mayo, you can see miles of uninterrupted bogland, a carpet of the orange-brown stretching into the distance across rides, up over hills and down below, forests dotted with forest and lakes. To the west, from this 2,085 milli height lookout point, the view stretched all the way to the Atlantic Ocean, to the grey-blue of Glacier Bay and further on to the point dark peak of Slavmore Mountain on Asher Island, 32 kilometers away from this crop face. To the north is the Creek Wine Farm, and then there is 60 kilometers away. And then how about and then we will continue the topic Mr. Bai from this page between.
Yes. Okay, between here and there is a wilderness that is intense. There are no roads, no buildings, no railroad lines, huts of village visible in any direction. The land is empty, and one of Ireland's 6 national parks will have big mountain range. This is said to be the loneliest. Some Iceland say content airlines on this place. And then it does not feel big. It's a lot thanks to the warmth and goals of the book. In the distant patch of green forest ahead, sides of a valley and nearby lakes. Lieutenant colors. And brightening the sky and the front of the board is jersey, mossy, and wet be in some parts. Okay, next everyone.
Man, continue.
Oh, wait. I have to open the website first. So it is loading, guys.
Okay. Contimayo. Contimayo is one of the most. You know Contimayo, Mr. Human?
Yeah.
Of course. Why not? Nice to meet you.
Contimayo.
Yes, Contimayo.
Yeah, Contimayo is one of the most parts of Ireland's Atlantic coast. Go 1 kilometer from Newport village, and there turn off the N59, which brings you onto the road to Letterkenny, where there an interest will happen as civilization falls away. There's feelings of driving into the middle of nowhere, as I found when I followed this road along the edge of Loud Fate, while the sun lit up the Gore Mountain behind. The Irish landscape sometimes has a magical mist, a fused air, and this day was not expansion as a rainbow effort right in the middle of the road. I drove on over bumps and hills following the twigs and beds around a one pretty stone house with brown and white cat sitting outside apart, like something for a children, a fairy tale. Next, Mr. Rashid.
Sorry. At Letterkenny, at the end of the road, narrow to Gave Trail. Again, a small stone, small hut with several shelter and a car park. There was nobody around, no phone signal. It felt a bit away. And for more panel about wilderness outline how the area will in time because slowly wild. The Ireland Leaders Wilderness, which is undergoing a rewilding program to allow the bog and forest to be to their natural state, even if much of the land has always been wild, wild and boogie. It is unsuitable for tillage and the lack of shelter. It was hard on livestock too, although it's been grazed by since the mid 118s. It was Irish naturalist Robert Lyot Parryger who described the Nevinbeck Mountain in 1911-37 as the very loneliest place in this country, for the hills themselves are encircled by the forest area of Hillsborough, and little seem to have changed since then. Mr. Farhan?
In his book, The Way That I Went, Prager described this area as a homeless and roadless 2,000 square miles of nothing. Sorry for the nothing but one heaven, but one the best, not one or depressing but inspiring. He wrote that you are thrown at the same time back upon yourself and forward against the mystery and majesty of nature. and you may feel deeply something of your own weakness and your own greatness. So someone who also finds the landscape full of spirit of Michael Chambers had got artwork Nevin National Park, who grew up in the townland of Strathmore on the southern edge of the park. We met at the Botley at Letterkenny, which is named by Robert Radio Center. Okay? Continue, Mister?
Even before the work, Health Chambers spent exploring every inch of the land, looking for place he heard about in childhood stories and discovering some of its extraordinary skills. As we cross the crossing of Canadian River and walk past Canadian feather along the banks, Cameron told me that he loves how you can be connected with her. As you go into the park, there's no evidence of man's impression on the landscape. It's a natural landscape and then left intact where you can become one with the natural world around you. He said, continues Mr. Hillman.
Okay, while the landscape seems empty, beneath the surface are layers of history and stories. So fascinating, they sometimes leave shiver. For the latter had the beggar Kyle Lewis. 26 kilometers to the town of Bangladesh following the ancient path where those moving livestock between there and town of Newport the Bull 40 kilometers from Tibet dates back to at least the 16th century. It's older than many of swordfish. Experience the hikers describe the trails as one element. Most challenging was seeing deep soggy valley, steep and hills, and no exit routes in the past, and as roads were built, the trail became decent. So conditions differ daily, but as well story of wet gear. There are darker tales, Hammer told local stories of highway law. The trial of example of story of a young girl returning from selling the cattle at the market who was murdered the robbers. Could not find money but the leaders, but when the family was laying her out for the funeral, they found she's hiding in the blood of their hand. Her ghost is said to wander the trial. There are remains of cottage she abandoned during the Great Hunger famine. When the tenants were active close the family graves, mass graves of people lost their lives along the bank traced the whale walking to the out of the westport to catch a boat immigrates across at the Atlantic to America. When he was young, Chambers heard the story from his father and grandfather of the calves sheltering rebels in the 1921 Northern War independence. He was always looking out for the caves and woke in 2019. He followed the falls and found the cave on World that had the human remains for a metallic period 5,600 years ago. Carbon dating solid is called chlorine site also for more than 1,000 years of aqueous body for the afterlife. The remains are still being studied and will later go to the national region. Okay, the next two key.
Okay, this is maybe the last for me, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm so handsome like this. Okay. The National Park was established in 1998, originally as Bali Crown National Park, and in 2009, the Reserve Council was built at Bali Crown with an extension on the park habitat and species. There are a 2 kilometers loop trail at the center, but the main body of the park starts 3 to the east and stretched more than 1,500 kilometers. After past the Nepean Black Mountain, talking the 1721 meter Silver Car, said to be Ireland's most remote mountain. The park was extended when 400,000 hectares of the commercial forest, called Nepean Forest, was taken over in 2017 and was renamed Wildlife National Park a year later. Since then, around 100 native trees have been planted, including Cecil Oak, Rowan Alder Poplar, and native Scotch pine, which would have covered the area 40,000 years ago. Before a weather climate and more rainfall led to the formation of the bogs, the park Ollendorff Bog is one of the last inactive active blanket bogs left in Western Europe. Bogs like this are important in the battle against climate change because they store so much carbon in plants, forests, with area releasing carbon and leading to flooding the conventional plain to the wild. The bogs back to their natural state included removing the conifers and blowing up trees to keep the wetland wet and the carbon stored inside. Overgrass of seas also remain the vegetarian, 10% there of the vegetarian, vegetarian, and then thrift wildlife again. Birds like golden plovers and red-head brown animals as they reside. Mr. Farhan, you can go ahead.
From glass.
Yes, we will last.
Yeah, very last of me. What is the last topic you bring to this podcast?
The park Ollendorff Bog. No. Local hiker Rosanna loves too. There's no coverage you have there in natural remote experience, which is fantastic.
Yes, so fantastic. The park of Ollendorff Bog is one of the last active blanket bog left in Western Europe. Bogs like this are important in the battle against climate change because they store so much carbon. In the past, forested drained huge areas releasing the carbon and leading the flooding to conservation plan to reward the bogs back to their natural state, includes removing the conifers and blocking up the drains to keep the western wet and the carbon source intact. Overgathering a ship also damaged to the vegetation chamber said there is evidence that the vegetation is recovering and refreshing life again. Birds like the golden plover and redheads, those are once more naturally based sites. We saw a red deer on our walks that are attracting native animals like the pine elephant, a cat in RS3 cat plus 5 mice, other bags for birds include fins and sand. Okay, maybe that's all for us.
Thank you for me, Rashid, and Farhan, Ubay, and Hilman. I'm sorry if we are have a mistake because Farhan, Ubay, and Hilman is a man. Thank you for your listening, Mr. Hamza from Makassar and Mr.
Benny
from IDN. Thank you. Please, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.